This is the example video for A7 dividing polynomials by monomials. So what I'm going to do, I have this cubic trinomial divided by this monomial. So what I'll do is divide each individual term by the monomial. By the rules of division, I know I am allowed to do this. So now I'll just simplify. So I have 24 divided by 6, which I know is 4. And I have r cubed divided by r, which would be 3 minus 1, which is r squared. So, done with this. My second term, I have 30 divided by 6, which I know is positive 5. I have r squared divided by r. So 2 minus 1, which is 1, so I'm just left with r. Then last but not least, 5 divided by 6, that can't be simplified, so I'll leave it as 5/6, or 5 over 6. And r divided by r, that cancels. So my final answer would be 4r squared plus 5r plus 5/6. Moving on to the next example, I'll divide each term of this quartic trinomial by this monomial. So I have 2x to the 4th divided by 8x cubed. And I have plus 32x cubed divided by 8x cubed. Last but not least, I have 4x squared divided by 8x cubed. So I have 2 divided by 8, which in its simplest form would be 1 over 4. And I have x to the 4th divided by x cubed. So 4 minus 3 is 1, so it will stay in my numerator. Okay, so I'm done with this. Next, I have 32 divided by 8, which I know is 4. And I have x cubed divided by x cubed. Well, they just cancel. So I have no variable. Now my last term here, I have 4 divided by 8, which I know is 1 over 2. And I have x squared divided by x cubed. So that's the same thing as 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. So I would have x to the negative 1 in my numerator. So I would have to move it down to my denominator and make it x to the first power, or just x. So this would be my final answer. Be very careful for these types of problems that it is very clear if your x is in the numerator or the denominator. When it comes to an assessment or practice, I am not going to be in the mood to guess whether it's in the numerator or the denominator. If it comes down to a situation like that, if it's not clear, it will most likely be incorrect. So just something to look out for. So let's move to this example. I have 12p cubed, which I will divide by 6p squared plus 24p squared divided by 6p squared, and then 6p divided by 6p squared. So when I divide these, I have 12 divided by 6, which I know is 2. P cubed divided by p squared, so 3 minus 2 is 1, so I'm just left with p. Plus 24 divided by 6, which is 4. P squareds cancel. And last but not least, 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then I have a p up top and 2 p's down bottom. So 1 minus 2 would be p to the negative 1, which then I would have to move to the denominator. So I have 1 over p. And that would be my final answer. So last example, Let me rewrite it. 3n cubed divided by 9n squared plus 36n squared divided by 9n squared, and then 45n divided by 9n squared. So when I simplify, I have 3 divided by 9, which in its simplest form is 1 over 3. I have n cubed up top and n squared in my denominator, so 3 minus 2 is 1, so my n will stay in the numerator, plus 36 divided by 9, which is 4, and n squared divided by n squared, they cancel, so no variable there. I have plus 45 divided by 9, which we know is 5, and n divided by n squared, which is n to the negative 1, but then it moves down to the denominator. So I have just an n down here. So this is my final answer. Now you are ready for practice for A7 dividing polynomials by monomials.